So what we can do is use some modifying expressions. Now we've got three sets here. We've got absolutely, totally, and completely, a little, slightly, pretty, fairly, very, and extremely, and really and quite. Now, my challenge for you, and this is quite difficult, you have to really think about like the feeling of this. Think about maybe some English books that you've read, some articles, and think, when have you seen these words used and with which adjectives were they used? Okay, so which of these can go with gradable adjectives like cold, like happy, like hot? And which ones can go with ungradable, like freezing, like furious, like filthy, unacceptable? And which ones can go with both gradable and ungradable? Okay? So we have to think, when do these words go together and what do they go together with? Okay? Just pause the video now. It's very difficult, but pause the video and have a think about that and make your guess. Gradable, ungradable, or both. Have a try now. Okay, let's take a look. So the first one, absolutely, totally, and completely, they go with ungradable. So we can say, oh, it's absolutely freezing, or it's absolutely unacceptable. But we can't use them with gradable adjectives. Like we can't say it's absolutely hot or it's totally cold. It doesn't make sense. The grammar is wrong. Okay? The next one. A little, slightly, pretty, fairly, very, and extremely. These ones go with gradable. They go with gradable adjectives. So a little hot, slightly cold, pretty angry, and so on. But they can't go with ungradable. Like we've said, we can't say it's a little freezing, pretty unacceptable. Okay? It doesn't make sense. And then finally, we have really and quite, and they go with both. So you could say it's really hot or it's really boiling. Now, using quite to emphasize ungradable adjectives it's a very British English thing. You could say, oh, that's quite unacceptable. And that's not really what Americans would say. So if you want to sound more British, then no, British English and American English are both fine. But if you want to sound more British, then you can use quite. So let's do a little exercise about these different modifying expressions now. So I want you to write a short paragraph using some of the modifying expressions and the gradable adjectives and ungradable adjectives that you've learned here. So, and try to use at least 4 different forms. So really mix and match those different things. Okay? So pause the video and write your paragraph now. All right, let's take a look at an example. So my day has been quite busy, really. I got up and made an absolutely delicious. So delicious is ungradable and absolutely is usable with ungradables. An absolutely delicious breakfast with sausages, eggs, and bacon. After that, I wanted to go for a run, but it was pretty cold. Also, I was full of sausages, egg, and bacon. So I used my home gym instead. Because I'm taking the TOEIC exam fairly soon, I decided to continue with my last-minute English course. Good job. It's been totally fantastic so far. Thank you so much. And I'm feeling very positive. Okay, so fantastic is an ungradable adjective, whereas soon, again, that's a very good example of a gradable adjective. Because when is soon? Soon could be in the next 10 minutes. It could be in 2 weeks. It could be anywhere in between. So Soon is quite flexible. It's gradable, so we can use the word fairly. Okay? And what we can also notice is that the speaker, whoever the person is, a very kind person, I think, with good taste, doesn't only use ungradable adjectives, okay? Because that's going to sound unnatural. If you put everything like very, very extreme, so you say it was freezing, it was delicious, it was totally blah, 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 it will sound like not like a native English speaker, basically. It's going to sound artificial. It's going to sound weird, strange. So you use a mix. Notice we used busy, and we used cold, and we used soon. But we also showed our high-level vocabulary by using absolutely delicious and totally fantastic. And that's the kind of mix that we want to have. So using those different types of adjectives and the modifiers, remember, modifier means it changes an adjective in some way. Using those is going to help you in all parts of the TOEIC exam, but particularly in writing and speaking, because then you have to produce English. You have to show your English. So now we're going to do a little activity. So we're going to practice something from section 2 of the writing exam. And that's where you have to respond to an email from someone. So now you're going to go to the resource file, so under the video, and write a response to the sample question. Okay? And try to use several modified adjective forms. And again, don't worry too much now about how you organize your answer. We're just focusing on the vocabulary at the moment. Later, in section 4 of the course, we'll look in more detail about how you organize your answer. But for now, just take a look at the resource file, answer that question, and then when you've finished answering, unpause, come back, and we'll take a look at a little detail about it a little bit later. Okay, so pause, have a try now. Okay. So you've written your answer, and now I'd like you to take a look at the sample answer, the example answer on the next page of the document. Okay, so there's several pages in the resource file, right? Look on the next page because there's a sample answer. And I want you to take a look at the adjective forms in there. And I want you to find which modified adjective forms did we include, and also which of them are ungradable, and why are they ungradable? Okay, so read that sample answer, find the adjectives that are modified, that are changed, and figure out, are they gradable or ungradable? Pause, have a try now. Okay, let's take a look. So we had extremely excited. So this is ungradable because we're emphasizing the positive emotion. All right. Very welcome. So this is gradable because this is one of the adjectives where there's no version that's ungradable. Most adjectives do have an ungradable synonym, but this one doesn't. So it's very welcome. Fairly large. So large, it can be this big. It can be as big as a house. Large depends on the situation. So it's gradable. And using fairly means that we're saying pretty large. So it doesn't make sense to emphasize the size of the school unless it's true. Really excellent. So this is, excellent is already a strong feeling, and we're using really to make it even stronger. And what you can do to practice this by yourself is when you're doing your reading, and also when you're watching English TV shows and movies and things like that, try to pay attention to these gradable and non-gradable or ungradable adjectives and notice how they are used and notice how they're modified as well. Because really, you can learn these and they're not that difficult to learn. But when you're using them, the best situation in which to use them is when you feel very familiar with them. So the more that you take time and you notice them in your own studies and in your own life, the more familiar you'll feel, the more confident you'll feel, and then the easier you'll be able to use them correctly in your writing exam and in your speaking exam.